Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Friday morning, progressives, and welcome to the March 21st, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278, Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, iHeartRadio, HeartlandSignal.com, of course. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Catch my stuff over up at Substack. New posting. Got another one that'll come probably over the weekend. Working on a couple things. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's where you can get the short versions and the long versions of Choose Views at my show page. Make sure you make that part of your thing. And most definitely, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez, Driving You Home. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Check out our HeartlandSignal.com digital platform. And speaking of Joan and Patty, today, live, local, and progressive, Joan will be taking your calls for the first half of the show, then talking to Michael Jones, founder of the Once Upon a Hill newsletter, and Ray LaHood, the former Illinois Congressman and Secretary of Transportation, and father of downstate MAGA Republican Darren LaHood. Is that right? Wait a minute. Okay. Joan will have a pair of opening day White House tickets to give away, live, local, and progressive today, 2 to 5 p.m. That just didn't make sense, but okay, I guess we got it right. The tickets make sense. 2 to 5 p.m., Joan, WCPT, progressive talk for 20 years. Tonight, Patty from 5 to 7 will be joined by Jeff Badu, licensed certified public accountant, founder and CEO of Badu Enterprises. Plus, Patty will be giving away a pair of opening day White Sox tickets. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. here on WCPT AM 820, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. On Monday's show here, we will be talking with National Hellenic Museum trustee Andrea Darlis and Sarah Jones, managing director and co-producer, publisher at the Politics USA. So that'll be quite a bit of fun to chat with both of them. And throughout the course of next week, we'll be talking with author and DEI expert Dante King, Illinois State Representative Edgar Gonzalez Jr., and Michelle Duster, and more. So you'll want to check us out next week. As always, trying to bring you the best that we have, guys. Oh, yeah, we got calls coming in already. Wow, busy. I got to give a shout out to our team. Henry and I were having a little bit of fun, which is why I'm a little disoriented this morning. We were talking about the snow and how quickly it melted yesterday. And Henry was saying, yeah, at one point he was out getting snow off of the transformer or the satellite, and then the next thing you knew, snow was gone. So it came and it melted quickly. But our guys work hard here. Our folks work hard here. Our engineers are putting in the work. So always give them a shout out when you call in. Say hi to them and thanks for what you're doing, because we would not be on the rails without them. Make sure, of course, you're staying tuned to the progressive lineup. We've already talked about Joan and Patty, but make sure to turn into the Stephanie Miller Show, my radio sister on the West Coast, and the Tom Hartman Show, the professor of everything progressive. So there you go, guys. What to do, where to be, what to listen to, what to follow. Lots of things for you to be able to do to keep your information base up to snuff. And we will keep pushing you in that direction to help you with that. All right, guys, let's take a couple quick hits at Choose Views News. We're going to take a break, come back, and then we'll talk about a few other things that are happening in the area. And unfortunately, the White House has targeted the Department of Education, which many of you probably heard through the course of yesterday. Trump was expected to sign the executive order aiming to shut down the Department of Education, made big news. While the department can only legally be eliminated through an act of Congress, the order will direct the Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, and that's a joke, to take all necessary steps to facilitate its closure. In other words, they're going to try to gut it. Recent job cuts have already reduced the Education Department's workforce by nearly half. The department administers billions of grants to state and local schools, as well as overseeing the federal student loan program. I have so much to say about that, but we'll keep on track. Home resales took a little bit of an unexpected bump up. Pent-up housing demand led to a surprising surge in home sales during the month of February. The National Association of Realtors chief economist Laura Yoon reported 4.26 million previously owned homes that sold last month represent a 4.2% increase over January. On a seasonally adjusted annualized basis, analysts had expected a drop to 3%. The jump comes despite the fact that mortgage rates remain high as more inventory and choices unlock demand, according to the report. Those sports fans that are out there, the Boston Celtics sold for $6.1 billion. The sale of the NBA franchise, an 18-time champion, represents the highest price paid for a team in the history of American sports, per the Wall Street Journal. Also, with skyrocketing valuations for NBA teams, the deal underscores private equity's growing influence within professional leagues. We talked about that earlier this week with regard to the San Francisco Giants. And Apple TV is losing $1 billion a year. How's that? Apple does everything right. Apple is good at making money. Apple TV Plus, not so much. The streaming platform is hemorrhaging more than $1 billion per year, according to the information, as it reported, citing an anonymous ex-employee. This has prompted CEO Tim Cook to take a harder line on reining in costs. Despite a reported $5 billion annual content budget, Apple Plus TV has failed to find a sizable audience. The service consistently accounts for less than 1% of total streaming in its viewing, according to the Nielsen data. All right, those are happening now in Florida. Tax cuts on property is a big conversation. Soaring homeownership costs are prompting Florida lawmakers to consider legislation to lower or eliminate property taxes, according to the Wall Street Journal. A full repeal is unlikely because it would cut vital funds for schools, police, and other services. While the idea is gaining political support, critics warn cutting property taxes could require what? Higher sales taxes, which could hurt lower-income residents. The debate comes as retirees and others on fixed incomes are worrying about rising costs that may force them out of their homes. And last but not least, majority of Cybertrucks recalled. The vast majority of Cybertrucks on U.S. roads are subject to Tesla's latest vehicle recall, according to CNBC. More than 46,000 of the automaker's controversial pickups are at risk of a stainless steel exterior panel. Say that 3 times fast. A stainless steel exterior panel becoming detached while driving, creating potential road hazards. Tesla will replace the rail assembly on affected vehicles, but the repairs must be done in person. This is one of the several recalls of the Cybertruck, as well as for Tesla, which accounts for a large portion of vehicles recalled in the United States. I wonder why. Maybe we should recall the dude that's the head of the company. I'm not even going to call him a CEO or giving any title props. The head of Doge and all the other craziness that they're putting in front of us. Recall him. He's not an elected official. So I hear this conversation a lot, so I'm going to put this question out to you guys before we hit this break. I'll make a statement and I'll ask a question. When I hear the conversation about working class, the working people, I'm curious, progressives, what's the definition of the working class? What's the definition of the working class and middle class folk? I'm curious. I really do want to know. What is it? What do they represent? What does it look like? And Today's guest, just to give you guys a quick rundown on that. Sorry about that. Obviously, we have our great friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics will be joining us at 6:30, and we're going to talk about a touchy subject, but one that needs to be talked about. And in that, I'm going to talk about a little bit of the okie doke, which is part of why I'm asking this question. But Karen will be with us. Then at 7 o'clock, going to lighten the mood a little bit with Matt Greenberg, who's the executive director at Acapella Chicago. And then we'll wrap up today with County Commissioner Yosina Morita, who will be talking about the environment a little bit. Okay, so the question about progressives, what are and who is the working class? I want to know that. Guys, call in. I'll do my best. Henry and I will do our best to keep everything tight today so we can get your answers in if you so choose to. You can just send us a text, and I'll try to read those, but call us as well in that space. All right, because I want to know how the working class got okey-doked in this last election. Because I keep hearing this conversation from so many folks that are part of union groups, and a couple of weeks ago we had a state representative on that said that, it felt like the Dems didn't talk to the union guys enough and they were Bernie bros and they voted for Trump. Okay, I don't get that. I really don't. But I want to know who the working class is according to you guys' definition. You guys is listening to me, Total Chicago thing. I'm curious. I've called from anywhere in the country, text from anywhere in the country. I am genuinely curious who that is, who it looks like, etc. All right, Henry, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
All right, guys, let's talk about some things to do here in Chicago. Then I'm going to come back to my question and some things I want to say to Dems this morning. All right, things to do in Chicago this great weekend. Holly at Navy Pier. This event will feature live music, dance, and interactive programming at the Aon Grand Ballroom. That's tomorrow, the 22nd of March, in Navy Pier. Make your way over there. I think you'll enjoy yourselves. It could be a lot of fun. Check out the beer garden. The Spring Flower Show at Garfield Park is still ongoing. That'll be happening till May 7th, so you can make your way over there. Garfield Park, by the way, the conservatory is 300 North Central Park Avenue. And we still are celebrating a little bit of that Irish flair in all of us. The Bank of America Shamrock Shuffle. Yes, taking place. I was driving down Lakeshore Drive. I was like, what's going on this weekend? Because, you go through Grant Park, Henry, and you're like, they're blocking this off. What's going on? And I hadn't even realized until I started to do my prep for today. The Bank of America Shamrock Shuffle is happening this weekend. If you're not participating, get out and support someone that is. Runners love it when they run and they have someone cheering for them. That's going to be starting in the main festivities at Grant Park. Black Creativity Night at the Griffith Museum of Science and Industry. That's taking place. It's a part walk, gallery walk, party of fun. Lots of things happening there. And, of course, the Museum of Science and Industry is at 5700 South DuSable, a.k.a. Lakeshore Drive. Make your way over there. Looking Glass Theater Company presents, again, the Circus Quixote. And that will be at 163 East Pearson. I think you guys will appreciate that. Tony Award-winning Looking Glass Theater Company. You can make your way, get tickets, and that should be a lot of fun. Let's see. A Tale of Today, Materialities at the Dry House Museum. That's taking place and through April 25th, so I'd like to give you guys a reminder. Dry House Museum is at 40 East Erie Street. Children of Dharma Family Matinee. That's taking place tomorrow at the Harris Theater, 205, East Randolph. And it'll be a great performance. The Ragmala Dance Company returns to the Harris Theater with a special family series performance of Children of Dharma. So that should be a fun one for you. And if you're into blues a little bit, make your way over to the Erie Crown Theater, the 19th annual Shy Blues Festival taking place tomorrow at 8 p.m. Chicago is a great city with all of our imperfections. Great city with great things to do. What's that song by John Legend? And I can only think of lyrics. Love your curves and I got probably messing up the lyrics, Henry. But you know which one. I think you know which one I'm talking about. That's who Chicago is. We got lots, we got imperfections, but we got great curves. We got some sharp edges and all the rest. And I know I'm botching John's song, but he won't hate me for giving him his props for great lyrics. But that's who we are, Chicago. And those who are listening to us throughout the country and listening to any of our programming, that's a lot of who our cities are, but that's a lot of who our that's a lot of what progressive liberal Democrats are trying to present. We have our imperfections, but gosh darn it, are we a great group of people. All right, Dems, this is the message I want to put out there. And that's ironic. Henry and I were just talking about this, and I had it in my notes. But Dems, if you create the noise, the line from Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And I want to take away from Field of Dreams. But if you create the noise, the media will follow. I say this often, bring a sledgehammer and knock over some tables. If you all do that, whether it be AOC, whether it be Bernie, whether it be Representative Crockett, Raskin, I'm leaving somebody, Lauren Underwood, the list goes on. The collective noise is what's got to happen. I know that it's nice that I talked about this yesterday, that Bernie and AOC, we're knocking it out of the park literally in the work that they're doing, Colorado and in Nevada. But I wish that Minority Leader Jeffries would say, "This is how you do it, Henry. This is me." It was 215 of us, right, in the House, and we'll leave Schumer on the sidelines for a second because the Dems are turning up the heat on Chuck Schumer. No disrespect, but this is all you got to do. We got 215 members of the House of Representatives on the Democratic side. Jeffries, sit down and go, okay, let's break this down by geographical breakdown in the country. So where do we have our folk? Lay out a map. Where do we have our folk? Okay, we got X number in this region of the country. You can split it up however they choose to. But this is just a business plan about taking our message, creating the noise. The media will follow. They will be forced to. And then split up the country. And literally, they can still function as a house, but say, this week, you 15 are going to these places with this message, and we're taking it to the people. Next week, you 15, whatever the number is, whatever the math. I mean, I wrote this out. I didn't do my math, but I can do it in my head pretty quickly. Let's divide 215 by 4. It's roughly 50 plus. 50 and some change. Divided again, you got, they have the people power to take that message out to the community and go to different districts. How about rather than just one or two show up? In this case, we've got a senator and a House of Representative member. How about 15 House of Representative members show up in a particular state? At a district and a couple of districts, Henry. Just roll in. Boom. Here we are. I think the voters will appreciate that en masse. And to give you an example as to why, this was one of the things, an article that I thought was just really good. House Republican disaster as Representative Scott Perry of Pennsylvania hides his constituents are demanding AOC. That should tell Minority Leader Jeffries something. I mean, this is one of those moments where you can be critical and also be supportive and push them to do more work. I mean, they want to see AOC. So let's give it to them. Not literally just her, but the rest. Representative Jeffries, please hear me in this. Please hear me in this. I'm telling you that if you were to put together your army and send them out to different parts of the country. If you had an event in Vegas, people would come from California. If you had an event, I believe, if you had an event in a red state that's being slashed and burned by this idiot in the White House and his minion, or maybe reverse that around, the idiot from Doge and his minion, that folks would show up. I believe strongly that if a representative got with Governor Andy Beshear and said, listen, we are going to hold an event in the state capitol. We're going to send 15 House of Representative members from different districts in the country. But we're coming to your state because your state's being harmed by this fool in the White House. And we repeated that all over the country in different state capitals or maybe other places. I don't know what would be the right venue. I don't need to be right in that. But the methodology could work. It's repeatable. Start doing that now. Don't wait till the midterms when everybody's cycling. And do it now. Do it while the weather's changing in America. Take advantage of the change of the season. But that's what we have to do, y'all. I know for a fact. I say I know for a fact because when I asked the question earlier, that was with meaning. Who is a working class? The answer is, I don't know. I'm asking you guys to tell me who you see as the working class. But I know that if we were to put that kind of, little groups out there of our representatives and grab some senators too. And here's where the real power comes. Tie that in with the state representatives in that particular state. The state legislators. Get them in that mix too. How powerful would that be? If the Dems make the noise, the folks will follow. The media will follow that. And they'll be forced to because when I say forced to, they like a hot story. The media likes a hot story. So if Dems start to show up in districts of Republicans in mass like that repeatedly, then the people will go, well, damn. So, and the proof of the pudding is this article that Sarah Jones wrote and Jason Easley wrote about the mere fact that House Republicans are not showing up. Scott Perry is an example. He's hiding from his constituency, Henry. They're demanding AOC. That should tell the Dems something. So I'm going to be the first to say it. Representative Minority Leader Jeffries, start breaking up your squad, your 215. Talk about a squad. The squad. Break up that 215 and take it to different parts of the country and see what happens. Watch what happens. Watch the following that you'll get. I've got a great piece that I got to do a little bit more gathering on that Steve Kornacki put together on the numbers of voters and where they come from that may or may not surprise you guys, but I'll have it ready for early next week. It's got shelf life, so I don't want to try to cram it in today because we're busy. We're busy every day right now, thanks to our team here, and I'm very grateful to that, and because of you guys who are just such great, wonderful listeners. And speaking of that, in terms of our team, our Heartland Signal team is just doing the work, guys. You got to get over there. We've got some clips that I'd love to play today, but we're just so tight on time. But we've got some great clips on Heartland Signal on X. And as always, our op-eds are just spot on. I mentioned yesterday a couple of great articles there. But the clips are going to blow you away from what's happening down in Tennessee. Gloria Johnson is definitely making some noise again. She's a great progressive in the state. And certainly what's happening in the state of Kansas with the Representative Tarwater there, who's got an issue with there being a black mass being held at the state capitol next week. You should treat yourself to the videos and the clips that we have on Heartland Signal on X. So make your way over there. As always, we are thankful for our great work that is put in by our folks and partners with heartlandsignal.com. Henry, let's take that break. When we come back, guys, we're going to get a couple clips for you that you're going to appreciate, and we're going to get into talking about how some folks got the okie doke put on them. More than a few. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Catch us on all the socials, most definitely. May 3rd event. The tickets are on sale now for our May 3rd anniversary broadcast at Max and Benny's Deli and Bakery up in Northbrook. Hal Sparks, Joan Esposito, Scott Duff, Patty Vasquez, and I will be there broadcasting live from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. with special guests. Learn more and get your tickets by visiting heartlandsignal.com/anniversary. Tickets are $20. Hurry, they're almost gone. This event is sponsored by Smart 65 and Southland's Friends of Labor. Also, at the Choose Views show page, you can get the rundown on what guests are joining me on the show this week and next week. Listen on demand to our recent interviews and full episodes, as we've said before. So there you go. Okay, we got a couple clips we're going to play back to back, and then we're going to go to our good friend Karen Byrne to talk about the Okie Doke. Let's hit him with that, Henry.
We ask that everybody else please stay home. Do not engage. Please remain calm.
You have an issue. If you have a question, we can address that in the question period.
Paid for by Israel. You are bought and paid for by AIPAC.
You believe that. You believe that. You believe that. It doesn't make it true.
What have you done?
Sir, we will have a question period. If you cannot behave respectfully,
This is your nation's flag.
if you cannot behave respectfully, then leave.
This is your flag. That's unbelievable. It's a shame.
Okay, that wasn't me and Henry knocking over tables and kicking in chairs and all that stuff, and we didn't bring a sledgehammer. Those were two town halls. The first one was Representative Bill Foster, and the second one was Representative Sean Casten, both here in Illinois. These are representatives that were basically, for lack of better words, ambushed by protesters about Israel. Now, Karen and I are going to talk a little bit about that today, but from maybe a perspective you heard me talk about before, but most definitely these were two things that happened this week. Now, we're probably going to tick some people off, maybe not. But I want to talk about that. And by the way, Karen, welcome to the show. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on, Richard,
Absolutely.
As usual.
Absolutely. It's Friday morning at 6:30.
Friday.
Friday. So Karen and I had a couple conversations about this offline, and it was funny because we had these clips, and I thought, well, this is a perfect time, because I know that a lot of people, as we all are hugely passionate about the opportunity to protest. And yesterday we had on Dr. Chick Canfora from Kent State, who was a protester during literally the shooting at Kent State in 1970. She was there on the ground, bullets flying by her head. And she still today says protests have to happen. They are our voice. They need to be done, whether it be students. She talked to everybody. If we got something to say, get out and say it.
Right.
And I'm a big believer in that. The 60s was a part of my life where I watched my older siblings and cousins who were actively involved in protesting injustice across the board and fighting back against misuse of power. And we have that happening again now. We had it happening last year during the run-up to the election, the spring and the summer. And there was even concern during the DNC here in Chicago that there was going to be a tremendous amount of protesting that would spill over and cause, craziness and havoc. That didn't happen. The city, the county, the state did a great job, and the DNC at large, to navigate that so that folks could protest, but protest in meaningful ways without being disruptive to the process. Now, that preamble takes me to a part of what you and I talked about yesterday. There are a lot of people who they're showing up. They're starting to show up again. Like last year, if you guys remember, last March, the McHenry County Democratic Women had an event that was essentially protested by 9 people to go after Representative Jan Schakowsky because she's Jewish. And we had to kind of stand in the void to make sure that they did not harm anyone and all the rest. And then we were able to have the event. Protesting allowed, but not to a point of being disruptive and making people feel threatened. So here we are again, Karen.
Yeah.
And suddenly these folks have come out of the woodwork.
Right. Well, and let me just say, there is nothing more American than protest, okay? Our Constitution protects our right to assemble and to petition and protest our government. That is something that is uniquely American. And I am not taking away anybody's right.
I mean, we've gone. You and I have gone to protests. You and I have gone to marches. So you just went to the one last weekend or week before last?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, well, and let me just back up. Okay, to the Iraq War. I went to D.C. and I protested that, and I remember a lot of people on the right saying that we were not un-American and we weren't patriotic, because we weren't just falling in line and going lockstep and, following marching orders right into a war that there was plenty of evidence was not warranted. And yes, and now we have this righteous protesting going on, and I'm going to say some of the, quote unquote, pro-Palestinian protests are absolutely legitimate and warranted. I think that there have been some places, I think just a week and a half ago or so, there was a group of Jews for a ceasefire that occupied a government building. I think it was the Capitol. Yep. And that is their right to do. So what we have been seeing and what has been in the news has been all of these white rural folks showing up at town halls to petition their Republican representatives, and with absolute righteous anger about cuts, about what we're seeing DOGE doing to the VA, to Social Security, to Medicare, to Medicaid, to our earned benefits, the money that we, the programs that we pay into. And so what has been getting a lot of attention in the media are these different town halls. And so then the next thing, Republican leadership say, don't hold town halls to these Republicans. And so a lot of savvy Democrats decide, okay, you know what? We're going to fill the void. We're going to show up in these places, and we're going to talk to the constituents and hear the constituents' concerns, because their Republican representatives are not willing to do it. Now on cue, and as you pointed out, I haven't seen, aside from that occupation in the Capitol building, I have not seen the kind of disruptive protest against a Democrat since you and I attended Jan Schakowsky speaking at the McHenry County Democratic Women, which, let's just be clear, it's to raise money for Democratic women to try and run and win in a very red district and county. So, it feels a little bit disingenuous when we have Republicans, every Republican, voting in favor of, Israel and doing what, and their leader, their very leader, Genocide Don, is out there saying that he is going to turn Gaza into a luxury resort. And when he's been on record telling Netanyahu that he's going to let him go and finish the job. So we haven't seen any of that kind of similar protesting since the election up until now. Now they're going to show up at Democratic town halls.
Yeah.
And now they're going to start yelling and disrupting when what is being talked about are very important issues, things that people are feeling, and that is not to take away from the fact that we need a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire. But to go after somebody like Sean Casten or Bill Foster, those aren't the guys that need to hear you.
Those are the people. Listen, those are two representatives that have been standing in the void, fighting to make sure that the situation in Ukraine, the situation in the Middle East, specifically in Gaza, doesn't get any worse. And so, Karen's being kind this morning. Karen's normally the one that will say, "Listen, look, y'all. I'm suspicious," and the phrase that Karen and I came up with in talking is, "We can smell the dirty diaper." Okay,
I'm a mom. I'm a grandma. I can smell a dirty diaper.
So here's the problem. And here's the point. I said this last year when this happened in McHenry. Why are they protesting at Democratic congressional events? Why in the hell are they not showing up at Republican events? And I'm not going to buy into the fact they're showing up, but the media is not showing it. If that's the case, that may be part of it, but it's a small percentage. There are not members that are fighting against this, that are protesting against what's happening in the Middle East, showing up en masse at Republican House of Representatives or Senate city town halls. It's not happening. And so here's where, let's just put some numbers on this for a second, Karen. This week, almost 500 people have been killed by the Israeli attacks. This week alone, 400 earlier in the week in that first attack. I think that was on Tuesday, and another 80 plus in the last 36 hours. This is where I go back and I say that a lot of what happened in this election, and part of the reason that I asked the question about what's the middle class, who did Democrats really miss? And when you layer that into how people say they were going to vote or not vote, let's be very honest and call this out. There are communities, there are people, there are economic groups that were lying when they said they were voting for the price of eggs and interest rates and inflation, because these same folks that are showing up at a Sean Casten or a Bill Foster town hall who said they were uncommitted and non-voters, undecided rather, from various candidly communities that were protesting. They're out there again, but they're not protesting to the groups that have their hands on the levers. And we told you, we didn't try to tell you, we told those folks, don't fall for the okie doke. Yeah. Trump said, Gaza parking lot, I'm going to let Netanyahu get the job done. You guys heard it was that he endorsed the increased strikes that took place earlier this week. President Biden and Vice President Harris were working their behinds off to get this back down. Netanyahu, because he said that the Palestinian Authority did not they didn't release the hostages, that he was going to back away from the ceasefire deal. That's a decision he made, but it was already in the sauce. So I'm tired of folks showing up at Democratic town halls protesting and saying that those representatives are bought and paid for by Israel, when in fact, who are you bought and paid for? Protesters in that space. Who are you bought and paid for? Or are you that unplugged in to not know that if right now the numbers in the House don't favor you because you didn't vote in a way that was going to favor this message? The dude in the White House, you could have had a different person in the White House that was standing in the void. But no. Genocide Joe. What about genocide, as Karen said, what about genocide Don and genocide Benjamin? Come on, Muslim protesters. I'm sorry. I'm calling y'all out today, just as I call out the Dems for not fighting hard enough.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and you said it exactly right. Democrats do not have the majority. If you're going to go and petition anybody, go and petition the Republicans.
Yeah.
Go and petition the Republicans. Go and petition. I mean, and it was like going back to the DNC. They were out there, protesting the DNC. Which, again, that is your right to do. That is your right to do. However, what about the RNC?
They weren't at the RNC, Karen. They should have been at the RNC. They made it a point to be at the DNC and made a big deal about it in press conferences leading up to it, but they didn't have their behinds up in Milwaukee at the RNC. And that, to me, says that we can smell the dirty diaper.
It begs the question, who is behind these protesters? That just conveniently, now that the narrative and now what people are seeing are unhappy. And let me just say, something about the power of unhappy and angry white people really gets people's attention, doesn't it?
Boy, you went there. You just took a whole siesta on the third rail. But go on and preach, Karen.
No, and so now that that's happening, now all of a sudden, on cue, we have to drown that noise out, drown that outrage and upset, with veterans standing up. And I think that is what now is scaring them so much, is veterans standing up and veterans challenging these Republicans on what DOJ is doing with the massive cuts to the VA.
So here's I'm coming from what is known in the Baptist church as the Amen Corner. Okay, so the amen to what Karen just said, I'm going to break that down even further because Karen's being really nice this morning. I don't know what you have to drink this morning. But listen, this is what, bless you, Henry, this is what Karen is saying. White folks are speaking up and yelling loudly. White Republicans and white folks in Republican districts, i.e. Scott Perry's in Pennsylvania, speaking up loudly, and it's being talked about. Oh, wait a minute. We can't have that be out there. We can't have that be part of the conversation. We have to show that the Democrats are the bad people. So let's go and have some protesters be covered at a Sean Casten or a Bill Foster event so we can show how awful the Democrats are. But where in the hell is the mainstream media consistently talking about how the Republicans lied to you? You fell for the okie doke. You tried to make it about the economy when in fact it was about race, it was about gender, it was about nationalism, and it was about privilege. And now that that's starting to come out and white folks in white Republican districts are yelling and screaming, oh, no, we can't talk about that. We got to talk about the fact that the Dems are bought and paid for by Israel and AIPAC, and they can't, and they're the ones that are causing Netanyahu to bomb our brothers and sisters in Palestine, in Gaza.
Right.
That's why. That's what we mean. That's what Karen and I mean by that diaper is getting a little funky.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what more can we say about it?
I'm sorry, Minister Byrd. I had to, from the Amen Corner, I had to throw a little bit of added flavor to what you're saying.
Yeah, it just doesn't pass the sniff test that now this is happening again. I mean, and what were the things that they, were likely discussing? It was the fact that, and there were a lot of old white-haired folks out in that audience. And, what were they there to discuss? They were just there to discuss the cuts to Medicaid and Medicare and, Social Security, which they rely on. I mean, my father, who is 87 years old, he relies on Social Security, and he paid into it all of his life. And what they want to do is they want to cut that out. And it is going to cause, as it did before, the New Deal and FDR created. I believe it was FDR, wasn't it? This created Social Security. Now I'm not awake. But before that was recreated, we had a lot of retirees that were going hungry, not able to make ends meet. Medicare, medical bills. They weren't able to afford their medical procedures and routine health care. So, this is an issue that is right here being discussed literally being discussed at kitchen tables now, all across America. And now here we're doing this nonsense again, this performative nonsense. I mean, we need a ceasefire. Again, I just want to say we need a ceasefire. But the people the two sides of the equation are not being honest brokers.
So, Karen, when I asked the question earlier about what is the middle class, who is the middle class, what does the middle class look like, and you just touched on something when you said this about your pops, and shout out to Papa Byrd for making it to 87. But listen,
Papa Bell.
I'm sorry. Thank you, baby.
Okay.
Sorry about that. ahead, y'all. Listen, this is a classic example of let's shiny object you over here because we're doing this over here. The fact that there's a large amount of veterans and senior. You heard when we were talking the other day about the numbers of white men over the age of 70 that were more in line with voting for Biden-Harris than they were, and where younger men were less. That was astonishing to me. We're going to put together a clip and have that on the show page. But the point I'm making to tie back to what Karen just said is this: the fact that the group of people who you've been led to believe are the working class, the working folk, the regular folk of America, are speaking out because they were lied to, that can't be everyday news. Because what it does show is exposes that the Republican Party, the Republican machine, lied to that entire group of people by saying that we are for you. And even to the working class folks, many of which who have suffered and have who are receiving Social Security disability benefits that are under the age of 62, that middle class, that working class group of people, it's exposed that they were lied to.
Yep.
So we've got to distract that lie. We got to distract the truth of the exposure of that lie by getting people to look at what the Dems aren't doing over here, and they're the ones that are in the pocket of Israel and AIPAC, by having folks show up at protests that are led by Democratic congressional representatives. Y'all need to pay attention to what we've said today in this segment. I know I've done a lot of talking about it, and I didn't mean to talk over you, Karen, but y'all need to pay attention on this, because that's what's happening.
I just think we have got to be smart about how we view these things and how we process what's going on, what we're seeing with our own eyes and hearing with our own ears. That is what I am challenging people to do, because to me it just seems really sus, as the kids say, that these guys are showing up again and disrupting Democrats. So let's not us be the ones falling for the okie doke.
That's right. I mean, show up at some Republican. And if they don't have a town hall, okay, that doesn't mean that they still these particular group of protesters can't show up at their offices at the Capitol. There's many places that they can show up, but they're just not doing it because
they've got the majority, folks. They've got the majority. That's all.
And to that end, as we wrap up, I said this earlier. Dems need to create the noise, and like the movie line that if you build it, they will come. If Dems create the noise and do what Bernie and AOC and Crockett and others are doing, people will follow, and it's proof positive. This can't be. You can't talk about this enough. House Republican disaster, as Representative Scott Perry hides from constituents, they're demanding AOC. That says something, and the Dems need to keep making that noise. Keep making that noise. And I know that it's work, but that it's actually kind of easy because they know where the districts are. They know the makeup of the districts, and having events in a Republican's backyard. I've been saying this for weeks now. Go steal their cookies. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Sorry, Karen.
Leave our cookies alone.
Leave our cookies alone. That's right. You got me fired up this morning with your you can smell the dirty diaper, Grandma.
Grandma. Well, amen to the sermon from Richard too. So I appreciate, as always, you allowing me to come on and take up some space with you. Well, and I don't know what you're talking about. Like the 7:00 hour is going to be like that, like more positive and upbeat or whatever. I'm a ray of sunshine, Richard.
Man, come here. All right, fine. Yes, you are.
I am a ray.
Well, here's the one thing that I will tell you, and people across the country should know this. I get so many comments from folks that say that you and Karen bring so much good information to us. And I'm thankful that I have a person that I can partner with and talk about this, that you guys can know that Karen does the work. I do the work. All of us here on CPT and throughout the Progressive Message, we do the work. All we ask of you guys is to follow us, to promote us, to push us to the people. When I say share and talk about sharing what we have on Heartland Signal, it's because we want you to be at the tipping point with the people that are in your lives so you can share information with people and say, see, this is what's out there. These are the things that you aren't hearing on the Republic or about the Republicans. And here's the things that you aren't hearing about what the Dems are doing. You guys that listen and follow, you have a huge tool in your hand, in your hands, and that's why we want to keep bringing you this type of messaging. So, Ray of Sunshine, as we wrap up this segment.
Yes, and let me just say, we just recorded yesterday, True Blue, TRUBLU Politics Podcast. My cohort Anita and I, and we did give Richard Chew and Chew's Views a shout out. So, little teaser.
Let everybody know how they can find you once again.
So, TRUBLU Politics Podcast. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. And then also on social media. I got off of Twitter. We got off of Twitter, but TRUBLU Politics on Blue Sky. We are on Blue Sky and then also on Facebook.
There you go.
So, yeah.
All right. Karen.
And Patreon.
Okay. That's right. Do that thing. Do that thing. Guys, thanks for tuning in to me and Karen today. Karen and I, us, Karen and myself.
The we.
Mm-hmm. Have a great weekend. Glad you could be with us today.
Thank you. You too.
Talk to you soon.
Love to everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. There it is. Don't fall for the okie doke. These protests, I don't know. I can smell the dirty diaper. Something ain't right. And I will leave you with this as we go to this break. The Dems need to create the noise. Folks will follow. I'm telling you, there's something there. There's something there. Create the noise. 773-763-9278. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about music and performances and have a little fun. This is Choose Views. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Progressives, welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. Henry and I were chatting yesterday. We were sharing some music during our pre-recorded interview and segment, and we were talking about one of the things that's great about music is it is universal, and what's so cool about music and performance and art in this crazy political time that we're in is it is a tool to bring us together in one way or another. And, you know, Henry is a musician. He's an engineer here. He does a lot of things. I have my former music chops or chops from the past. But I'm still that dude that's, when an opportunity to talk about music and the arts comes my way, I definitely want to be able to do that. And you guys know that about our show. We are fortunate enough this morning to have the executive director of Acapella Chicago rolling with us this morning, none other than Matt Greenberg. Good morning, Matt, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. It's great to be with you.
And Henry told me that you were just getting everything plugged in this morning and ready to go.
I was getting my cup of coffee, and here we are.
Right on, man. Well, how you doing this morning? Good?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's great to talk to you, and I'm certainly on board with music bringing people together. That's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, you're familiar with all the different types of music, and I know that the week before last we lost the great Roy Ayers, vibraphonist, and one of his songs, "Love Will Bring Us Back Together," is a classic, and that's one of the reasons why music has always meant so much to me. Matt Greenberg, people may not know who you are, so I don't want to overtalk you there. Take a couple of minutes and tell us about you, and tell us about your work with and being the executive director of Acapella Chicago.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I started out as a singer, so my background is definitely as a musician, and trained and studied at a music school, and came to Chicago right after that and tried to make my way in that world, and kind of led the regular singer's life that all of our folks lead. So singing in lots of different groups, the Chicago Symphony Chorus and the Grant Park Chorus, and lots of other groups all around town as a soloist and choral singer. I did a lot of musical theater, but I also kind of had my toe in the administrative end of the music world as well. That was kind of part of my training. And when Jonathan Miller, a colleague of mine as a singer, decided to start this crazy new group called Chicago Acapella back in 1993, that's how long ago it's been, he asked if that was something that I was interested in. And the way he described it was, I want to bring together a small group of singers, men and women, really, the best singers in Chicago, professionally trained folks that can sing absolutely any kind of music imaginable. So we want to be able to sing really serious, complex, classical stuff, Renaissance music, music from every period, brand new stuff. Also, we want to be able to sing folk songs and music from around the world, lots of different languages, vocal jazz, a cappella pop, like any kind of music that is kind of worthwhile in the world, we want to be able to do. And I said, well, that sounds like my fantasy, actually. It's more than, I'm not just interested in it. I'm like all in. And so I was lucky enough to be one of the singers on stage when the group first started back in 1993, as I said. And it kind of just went from there. I sang with the group, and then I became, sort of Jonathan's partner and administrative helper and executive director. And here we are. 30, how many years later, going strong.
Yeah, man, that is such a great story. And the word that kept popping in my head, I mean, you said it, but also it just kept popping in my head, is coming together and working together and bringing folks from different factions together. That's what music does, particularly ensembles, because you've got different types of instruments and instrumentation and vocalists that are all working together. And I can unapologetically see the overlay of that to where we are politically right now, is that bringing more people together to work together for a common end result or a common cause or forward thinking is what we all want to be doing and should be aspirational to do. It's hard work, but it doesn't mean that we can't do it. And that's what you guys have been able to do with Chicago. I mean, it's so cool. And I talk about the upcoming event. I mean, I want to get to that without, missing that opportunity from March. It's starting next week, the 29th, and going through April 6th. Yeah. Is that right?
Right. Next weekend we open. Right. Yeah. It's the final concert of the current season. And unlike other groups, we don't sort of have one concert home, so we bring our concerts to 4 different places all around Chicago. Pretty much every time we do anything, we bring them to all those places. So, this concert is called Jazz A Cappella, and as I mentioned, this is kind of one of those many, many styles or genres of music that the group, can pull off. And so, it's a whole concert of really encompassing decades of jazz music back from the early 20th century, from the beginnings of jazz onward. So, folks will hear our 10 singers on stage, no instruments, of course, a cappella, no conductor, and you're going to sing everything from sort of old American songbook standards, Rodgers and Hart, Irving Berlin, George Gershwin, which, songs that sort of became part of the jazz canon that every jazz singer wants to do. And then we extend from there to stuff from the big band era, stuff made famous by Duke Ellington and Count Basie that started out as instrumentals. Then somebody added some lyrics so they could be sung, and songs from the bebop era, Dizzy Gillespie, John Coltrane, kind of some free modal jazz, the West Coast jazz of Dave Brubeck, cool Brazilian jazz. So it's like trying to kind of give a taste, at least, of really everything that jazz calls to mind. And again, it's going to be, done with just singers, no instruments, so we're kind of putting our twist on that. And we come right down to the present day with a brand new piece by a brilliant young composer and performer named Devin Gates, who was one of the winners of our Her Voice project, which is a competition and mentoring program, for emerging women composers. And she's just dynamite. She's one of these, young artists that you come upon and you feel like, oh, man, this person is going to be very famous, very big.
She's a bassist, too, right?
So dynamic. She is. She's a bassist and a singer and obviously a composer. pretty much in that jazz world. She's kind of become really part of, sort of the new generation of jazz musicians. And, but she's got this composing side to her art and writing for choirs, basically, for vocal ensembles. So it's a really unusual juxtaposition of, again, kind of cross-genre. It's unusual for us, I will say, to do a piece where there's actually improv. I mean, that's what jazz musicians live and breathe, is improvisation. And so we're kind of extending ourselves in that way, but we will workshop the piece with her. She came to Chicago last fall and workshopped it with us. Going to be here for the second weekend of shows to do some Q&A with our audiences. So we're thrilled to be presenting that piece and working with her in that way. So yeah, it kind of brings it all the way up to the present day, and kind of proves that it's not a dead art form. We're not just singing music by folks that are dead. We're singing brand new music written by people that we actually know.
Well, to your point about the multiple venues, Saturday the 29th at 7:30, you're going to be at Gannon Concert Hall, which is 2330 North Halsted. On Sunday the 30th at 3 p.m., you'll be at the 19th Century Club, which is in Oak Park, 178 4th Avenue in Oak Park. And then Saturday, April 5th at 7:30 at Nichols Concert Hall in Evanston. And on Sunday, April 5th, you'll be at the Wentz Concert Hall in Naperville. So to Matt's point, they're going to be all around the Metroplex, city and suburbs. So you guys can get tickets and you can check things out. Get out and see the performances, because the music is a connective tissue. I've said it before. I'll say it many, many times again in the future. But I want to talk about two things that I think oftentimes when we talk about venues, what came to mind when you're talking about the different artists, and I look at the different venues that you guys are going to be performing at. There was a time not too long ago where artists that you named, the people that you listed off in terms of their music, they couldn't perform at venues like the ones you guys are going to be performing at. That's part of our social dynamic. It's part of our history. And the link that you probably can tell where I'm going is, but they're trying to take away the history and the meaning of that in our society as it relates to Department of Education and other musical performers as well as historical methods. And that's, how does that impact you, being an artist, having had a career, a life, body of work, where this has been a part of you, but there's a part that they're just trying to strip away? They being our federal officials. Let's clean that up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I keep living by, I was just having a conversation about this last night with somebody from the Illinois Arts Alliance, which is kind of out there on the front lines doing great work, trying to advocate for arts and artists in the midst of everything we're facing. And the phrase that I keep repeating in my mind is joy is resistance, which I'm sure is something you've heard said many times. And, I mean, there's the fighting aspect of what we have to do, and thank goodness people are out there on the front lines doing that. We all have to find a way to resist and try to get through what we're going through. And it's also, sort of personally, we have to take care of ourselves. Like, it can be exhausting and overwhelming personally, and something like music is, I think, a really important part of kind of taking care of ourselves, reminding ourselves of our humanity and our common humanity. And as you say, bringing a lot of, different kinds of folks together. It's interesting because, we're all very used now to sitting in our homes, streaming stuff on TV or, listening to music on our iPod, doing whatever. And that's great and that's important. And we're lucky that we were able to kind of absorb art in that way these days so easily. But, there's nothing like being in a room full of strangers, people that you don't know, people from different walks of life. You don't really know where they're coming from. You don't really know what they're going through or what they've been through. And you're sitting there together experiencing art, music, whatever it is, together. And that's a powerful piece of just, our humanity, and something that you can't replace. So that's one of the reasons that, as a group, Chicago Acapella really does feel strongly about this idea of bringing it out to different communities and different parts of our area. We want to try to make it as easy as we can for people to find us. It's not sort of a stuffy, formal atmosphere where you have to come in knowing all the things. We just want people to come and engage with the singers, engage with the music. And, of course, we're looking for places with really great acoustics. But we also want them, to get there, be easy to get to, and be comfortable. So, it's kind of central to everything that we do.
Yeah. Matt, I'll go back to something that you said earlier in talking about yourself. Do you get to perform? I know that you talked about the business side that was part of your learning and ascent, but do you get to perform much yourself now, or what do you do to keep that part?
I've kind of cycled out of that part of my career. It's funny, I look back on the days when I was singing in Chicago a cappella, among other places, but I'd be singing at a Chicago a cappella concert while I was, the administrative head of the organization, and the organization was growing at that point. And so I'd be standing there on stage, and instead of thinking about the music and being in the performance side, my mind would be like, oh man, this donor needs to be like seated in this over here, or, why is that light wrong? I'd be like, my executive director brain would be just going. And so, I finally realized, like, you got to do one or the other here. The organization got big enough so that I was able to make this a full-time career. Yeah. So, not doing much of the singing, but, it's my background, it's my passion, it's my love. I still sort of identify as a singer, and those folks are my people. And so, it's definitely part of my DNA.
So you had to take the A train, known as the administrative train, as it were. So.
There you go. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, there you go. See, I've been around just long enough to be somewhat dangerous. So, young folks, and what do I mean by that? I want to know what your thoughts are about your view of young folks in music, and what do you see? I mean, you spoke earlier about Devin Gates, and she being one of those younger voices with some of modern jazz. What do you see? And this is tied obviously into education and the arts, but what do you see for our younger folks that are coming through now in terms of music and performance?
Well, I mean, working with somebody like Devin and all the young composers that we've worked with through the Her Voice program has been exciting and enlightening in a lot of ways. I think, they really do come at music from a very open-hearted position, and I don't think some of the boxes that were put around either various styles of music or the various people that were allowed to learn or study or perform certain kinds of music. I feel like those barriers, to their credit, have been kind of dissolved, and so it has always felt like this is the 5th year we've been doing Her Voice, and it always felt like a very sort of, like, very open-hearted interaction with these composers as we work with them and they work with our professional singers. So that's been extremely positive. We also work with younger folks mostly in high school and in some cases even younger, through some of our education outreach school programming. And, it's been rough since 2020 for these young people, and I think they're starting to come back a little bit. Certainly, some schools that are a little bit better off are coming back pretty strong. But it's been tough to bring back, whatever it was, 2 or 3 years of lost opportunities for these young kids that just, were sent home for a couple of years and weren't able to really make music with their kids in the same way. So, we got a composer from Mexico, actually, who's working with some students at 2 high schools in Chicago as part of our Contouré program this year. And, again, you never know what you're going to find. The kids are dealing with a lot. They've got a lot on their plate, and they're, in some cases, just struggling to get through. And so we're hoping to kind of bring them, again, some joy also in this case some knowledge about Mexican art and history and culture and music. But it's challenging, but it's important work, and music is something that
it's a big part of our future.
It's the future, and music has got to be part of their lives. We have to make sure that music stays in these schools.
Absolutely, Matt. Thanks for being with us this morning, and I appreciate the ray of sunshine that you brought with regard to Chicago Jazz a cappella. We're going to wrap up. We're going to a little fun surprise as we wrap up, but let folks know how they can find you and how they can just follow the organization at large.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, ChicagoAcapella.org is the best place to do that. I always have to spell it for people because who knows how to spell acapella? But it's 2 P's and 2 L's in acapella. So go to ChicagoAcapella.org and they can learn about the concert. They can get tickets, sign up for our email list, and stay connected with us. And we're also on all the social media channels, so they can find us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all the places. But yeah, we'd love to see them at our concerts starting next 2 weekends.
Thank you for being with us. We're going to wrap it up as we take the A train out of here. Thanks, Matt, for being with us.
Thanks, Richard.
Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views, folks. Thanks for being with us. Matt was great, and a little bit just to soften the mood a little bit, to get you guys to thinking about that connective tissue that music brings to all of us, particularly those of us who are have been around enough to appreciate the history of jazz. And shout out to everyone that's been sending texts this morning. I've been trying to keep up during the commercial breaks. Bob and Lois and Vicky and Texas, and I think we got one from our good friend Andrew, and goodness, just lots this morning. So thank you for that. We really appreciate it, and keep it coming. It allows us to get a version of what you're thinking and seeing about things. So we appreciate that. We in Chicago, our layout geographically and based on how our city and counties and state are set up creates some unique dynamics as it relates to our political officials and how they have to work together. They've got to be, they got to be willing to work together. We know there's going to be some flame throwing and some noise, but we've got such great, I guess you could say, puzzle piece of our mayor here in the city of Chicago, and then our county leaders, and particularly when it comes to our county commissioners. With us this morning is one of those leaders, one of those folks that's been, as I say, doing the work, and that's Commissioner Yasina Morita with us this morning, talking from the 13th District. And welcome to the show. Good morning, Madam Commissioner.
Good morning. Happy World Water Day.
That's right. You are in charge of something that is a really, really big deal. This is Women's Month. This is Water Day, World Water Day, which is actually, is it Saturday or Sunday? Or are we right there now? Today. Okay. So, Commissioner Marita, take a moment and share a little bit about you with us, our listeners, and then let's talk a little bit about Water Day and some of the things that you're working on in that space.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Josina Morita. I'm Cook County Commissioner of the 13th District, and prior to this, I was Metropolitan Water Reclamation District Commissioner for 6 years, and I'm an urban planner by training, so stormwater and water management is part of my background. I was a community organizer for 15 years before this, and proud to serve one of the most diverse districts here in Cook County as the first Asian American woman to serve on the Cook County Board.
Yeah, you are a rock star in that space, and really appreciate you being with us this morning. You sit on the National Blue Ribbon Commission, particularly when it comes to potable water. I mean, that's a big deal. And we had a guest on last week talking about water issues that are taking place in the southeast side of Chicago. And I know that we also have had Commissioner Preckwinkle on with us, and this is a big deal for her. Clean water, clean communities throughout Cook County, our wonderful forest preserves that you guys do such a great job, Madam Commissioner, of managing and making sure are right for the people that live in Cook County. And you're a big contributing factor as to why the region and the city of Chicago specifically have gotten such great nods from magazines like Condé Nast as being one of the cleanest cities in America, big cities particularly, and because of our park systems, which you all have been so successful at managing and navigating. So shout out to you for that. But talk a little bit about how you navigate that in relationship to making sure that we have clean water.
Sure. I mean, we're so lucky here in Chicago. I think, I grew up in California under drought conditions. We had no water. I grew up with short showers, brown lawns, put a brick in your toilet tank, and moved to Chicago right out of college. And we are sitting on the Great Lakes, Lake Michigan, that hold 90% of the U.S. water supply, 20% of the world's fresh surface water. And so we are incredibly lucky. But we are also, then comes a great responsibility to be responsible stewards, not just for us, but for the rest of the region, the rest of the country, the rest of the world. And while we have done some amazing things, like you said, we're a clean city, we're a responsible city. You mentioned the southeast side. I live in Skokie, which many of you probably saw, lost water for 48 hours a few weeks ago. I was boiling snow from my backyard on my stove to fill my toilet tank. People had no water for 24 hours, no potable water for 48 hours because of a main break. And so people don't always think about infrastructure, repairs, these kind of things also, not just natural disasters, can cause major water problems.
So I had a couple of wow moments, and I didn't even say it on air when you were talking. Can you repeat those numbers again about the percentage of water impact of here in the Midwest and specifically our region? Can you say that one more time? I think people missed that or didn't quite get the import of that.
Absolutely. So, we sit on Lake Michigan, which is part of the Great Lakes, and they hold 20% of the 90% of the U.S. water supply, 20% of the world's fresh surface water, drinkable water. Because only 1% of our water is drinkable. You look at the earth, you see all this blue part on the map, and you think, we are never going to run out of water. But only 1% of that is drinkable.
And is that because of the freshwater to saltwater integration? Can you explain that a little bit more? I'm sure people will nerd out on it, but it's important to understand.
Yeah, no, it's the freshwater component, exactly what you just said, right? So you go to Lake Michigan, it's freshwater, unlike our oceans that are saltwater, which is the majority of the water. So
I've heard this conversation, and I know that you leaned into this. Given that you're from California originally, now here in the Midwest, what are the challenges behind desalinization when it comes to salt water?
It's very difficult. It's very expensive and very energy intensive. It's amazing the strides that we've been able to make in water technology. People think about the Chicago River as this, for those who are from Chicago, right, of dead bodies, animals, meat, toxic waste. But some people may remember for a number of years when I was a Water Reclamation District Commissioner, I hosted a jump in the Chicago River. Yep. We had over 30 elected officials jump in the river in Chinatown to show how clean our water was getting. And part of it is because of the technology that we have. So MWRD, that cleans your storm and sewer water. The water that we re-release back into the river now is cleaner than river water. Wow. I worked with folks to make Chicago's first effluent, treated wastewater beer a number of years ago, and it was so clean that we had to put bacteria back into it to make beer.
Wow. So at what cost does that come when we take on a project like that? Is it expensive, or just help us out there?
Sure. There's different technologies. So desalination to get to drinking water can be very expensive. And now we even have the technology to take treated wastewater and turn it into drinkable water. Santa Clara County in California takes treated sewage water and sells it as bottled water. So that technology is there. San Francisco Public Utilities Commission building does it on site within the building. The sewage pipes go through a disinfection process, and it comes out of the drinking water fountains. But what we're doing at our Metropolitan Water Reclamation District plans, we're testing actually two different strategies. One is chlorine. The other is UV, ultraviolet light, for a tertiary third level disinfection to get us to the level. And so those are much more affordable, much less energy intensive. And this is where we are also part of the research. We are part of the problem solving to figure out what are the strategies that the rest of the world can adopt.
Talk about your 1 million gallon challenge.
Yes. So, again, coming from California, we talk a lot about water conservation, and oftentimes people think about water conservation as short showers, and put a bucket in your shower to save water, and rain barrels. These are all amazing things that, people can do, but oftentimes are harder for people to do. But there are also much smaller, easier choices that people can make every day that can save even more water. It's the water that you don't see that's coming out of your faucet, the water that goes into the food that we eat, the products that we use. That's where the scale of impact is. And sometimes they're easier choices. So the 1 Million Gallon Challenge, you go to milliongallonchallenge.com. There's 20 different challenges you can take. Things as simple as eating vegetables or salmon instead of steak for one meal can save 584 gallons of water. Eating peanuts instead of almonds can save 1,000 gallons of water. Drinking tea instead of a cup of coffee, can save 58 gallons of water. So these are small, easy choices that you can build into your daily life and save, thousands, even 1 million gallons of water in a year. And so we challenge those here to take this challenge and help us save 1 million gallons of water today here on World Water Day, and think about how you integrate it into your life moving forward.
So the real challenge in that is, and again, mention the website real quickly because I want to layer something into this.
It's www.milliongallonchallenge.com.
Okay, so folks, go to the website, and like she just said, like the commissioner said, see how you can challenge yourself in this process. What are the items that are there? You said there are 20 items. Yeah. So pick 5. Don't try to do them all and say I can't do them. Just pick 5 and go okay, or pick the ones that make the most sense to you in your life, and then try to apply those. But don't just do it today. Maybe start off by doing it, let's just say once a month. Or do it once every Friday, whatever your choice is. But this is where we have impact on our environment. It's simple stuff. And Madam Commissioner is leaning into that. It's simple stuff that we do every single day. I didn't realize the integration of clothing as it relates to certain fabrics versus other fabrics. Talk about that a little bit.
yeah, cotton is, that's the fabric of our lives, but it is incredibly water intensive compared to polyester. But I would say one, the fabrics, but also just the amount that we buy. So one of the other things, again, talk about the invisible cost, right, is how many of us have clothes in our closet that we've never worn? Right, or that extra pair of shoes you maybe didn't need to buy, right? Each of those items of clothing on average is at least 1,000 gallons of water, right? So it's also, choosing polyester over cotton at times. It's also not buying that extra stuff, whether it's plastic toys for my kids or the single serving snacks versus the bulk snacks for my family, or, I don't really need that extra pair of jeans that cost thousands of gallons of water, as well as the money and the space in my closet, and the fact that I just don't need it. And so I think that there's lots of choices that you can integrate into your life of, do I need this? Of course, every once in a while for me, I like to have a steak, but when I'm not, in a restaurant, I'm like, I could go either way. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go with the vegetarian option or the chicken option or the salmon option to save that extra 600 gallons of water. So like you said, it's about how you take small changes. Just with that information, it helps you, build it into your life in an easy way, a consumable way.
A couple of things that I learned kind of accidentally about just the stuff that we do every day is, for the longest time, people probably, when they get their gas for their car, if they drive a combustion engine vehicle or a hybrid, they top it off, so to speak, the language of topping it off. I found out that that's actually a very bad thing to do for the environment. The cars, the click is designed to say that the tank is full, and the topping off that then potentially leads to spillage not only affects the environment, but it takes water unneeded to clean that away if it becomes an even bigger problem. So topping off your gas tank isn't something that you need to do. This one blew me away. And in terms of your expertise with regard to the environment, even beyond water, is idling your car. When you're sitting in your car, letting it sit and idle is also problematic for the environment. What do you know in those spaces? And hopefully I didn't throw something at you that you weren't aware of.
No, all of this is true. I mean, topping off, idling, especially here in Chicago in our cold winters, sometimes people think, I need to warm my car up for, 30 minutes, to help the engine. Really, studies show that you only need like 2 or 3 minutes to warm it up. And that's something that you can do instead of kind of having your car idle. And, so I think that all of these, even just thinking about how do you turn your lights off in your house when you leave. Sometimes I have a lot of my electronics in a power strip, so I have to turn the whole power strip off when I'm not using it. So there's if you walk through your day today, think about all of the little things that you do, whether it's filling your car, leaving the water running, washing a load of laundry that's not full. There's so many, buying something that you don't need, the meals that you eat, how much packaging is on the food or the snacks that you buy and have in your home. I look at my trash, and even with trying to make the best choices I can, I look at it, it's like half packaging.
You and my wife would have a great conversation about that, Commissioner. She just sometimes like trying to get into a box of the smallest thing, whether it be
there's like a pen. Yeah.
Right.
It's like this giant box with all this inflatable packaging.
And you need a doggone security clearance to figure out how to get into the box to get that one little item out. And so she definitely, and many other people that I know, I don't want to just isolate my wife, but I know so many people too that lean into what you just said about it's by the time you look at your trash, half of it's packaging. It's not food that you've thrown away. What do you think about garbage disposals versus putting food into the trash can?
again, the garbage disposals take a lot of water, right? Because you're rinsing it down, So, I'm a fan of just, regular trash because, it takes energy to run the garbage disposal. It takes water to use the garbage disposal. There's other technologies that are actually better for water, right? So washing your dishes in a dishwasher actually saves more water than hand washing, which is kind of counterintuitive. And then we always encourage people when they do their laundry, right? One, you can get an energy saver, water saver washing machine, but also always do it with a full load. And then, also with my former MWRD hat on, try not to use so much water when there's big rainstorms, because that's what causes the backups in our water systems, because there's so much water already going into the system that we try to ask you to wait till the storm is over to do your laundry, things like that.
Wow. So, okay, let's go back to that again. I knew we'd have a little bit of a positive nerd out moment here. Did you just say, maybe repeat that during a storm, try not to do laundry then? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, so we have in Cook County, like most old cities, what's called a combined sewer system, meaning our storm water and our sewer water go to the same place, right? So when there's a big storm, our sewers are already filled with rainwater. And so if we use more water during a storm, whether it be taking a long shower or bath or doing laundry, you're just adding to the amount of water that's going into the sewer. And what we have is what's called a combined sewer overflow. And so once water goes down your pipes, it's going into a combined sewer with sewer water and storm water, and there's no separating it at that point. So when we overflow our system by using more water when it's already at capacity with storms, they back up, and that's when you have the raw sewage going back into our waterways, like the Chicago River, and into our drinking water supply.
What a I didn't know that. I would gather, and this is probably true for a lot of old cities throughout America, not just Chicago. There are millions of people that don't know that is the case. And so I'm gonna give you a homework assignment, Madam Commissioner. What can we do? And put it on me. So maybe it's a joint homework assignment. How can we get that little bit of knowledge right there to more and more people? Because I guarantee you there are millions of Americans that don't know that about how our older city water systems work when we have a storm system, and then the integration to just using water during that period of time. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's all of us using our voice in our platforms, right? So I have a platform that I put out, but it's limited, right? And same, you have a platform. We can all continue to echo this message. We do it in the middle of rainstorms, right? When it's pertinent, right? If I tell you now while it's sunny outside and there's no rain, it's less relevant. But, I post on my Facebook. I send email alerts out. You can sign up for overflow alerts from MWRD and the Friends of the Chicago River so that they can remind you of these things when there are big storms. But, we would love for you and others that you work with, in communication and media to share those messages, especially when we know we're in the middle of a big rainstorm. Just, hey, quick reminder, try not to wash your laundry till the storm is over.
So what can we do next? And I want to wrap up because I know you got a busy morning. What can we do next here with my show to further that message that you just brought to us and I know we're going to have you back on, so that's an easy one, but maybe we can talk about this offline, not to put you on the spot, but I definitely want to be able to be more of an advocate of how we can be better stewards of the water that we have, the fresh water particularly. So maybe the solution is we'll have you back. We'll talk about some of the things that you're working on. I know that today is World Water Day. What do you have coming up in terms of some of your big dartboard items that you're working on?
Yeah, I've been on the county board for about almost 3 years now, and the first thing that I did when I joined the board was pass a resolution to commit Cook County to passing its first environmental justice policy. So that's been a multi-year process. It's engaged thousands of residents across Cook County. We're going to be passing that at the end of this year. So those who want to get involved can look up and still get feedback on Cook County, the second largest county in the country's first environmental justice policy. We have Earthapalooza, which is one of our big events in the Forest Preserve, coming up at Lene Woods in Morton Grove on April 6th. You can find that on our website, josinamarita.org. And there's lots of events. I would say it's a beautiful day today. Go out and enjoy the Forest Preserves. It's good both for your physical health, your mental health, and the work that we're doing. We just hit 70,000 acres for the Cook County Forest Preserve, while other metro areas are retreating in their green space. We are expanding it, not just green space, but natural spaces like the Forest Preserve. So there's so much good going on. I know there's so much bad in the world, but look at the Forest Preserves, look at Cook County. There's a lot of good, and we're really proud of that.
Well, we are too, and I'm a big advocate of that as well. And I'm meaning the utilization of our forest preserves. But more importantly, Madam Commissioner, I really appreciate you being with us this morning. I think that you kind of gave I won't say a master class just yet, but you gave pretty darn close to a master class in how we can be better stewards of our water by doing some basic things. So guys, take the $1,000,000challenge.org and find the things .com. I'm sorry, my bad. $1,000,000challenge.com and find some things that appeal to you that you can do of that list of 20 that Commissioner Marita has recommended. And thank you, Commissioner, for being with us. We'll have you back. We'll talk about some of the things that are happening in your projects and just keep this conversation going for our listeners all over the country.
Thank you. Happy World Water Day, everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks, Madam Commissioner, for being with us today. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye. Wow. Wow. I hope that blew your heads off in a day where, as she said, with all the craziness that's going on in the world, and we don't shy away from talking about it. You know that we don't do that here. But it is nice to have a couple of folks, and I don't want to leave Karen out because I don't want her to be throwing anything at me, but that bright ray of sunshine. But also it was great to have Matt Greenberg here to talk about the connective tissue of music in our lives. And also, of course, just having Commissioner Josina Marita from the 13th District be with us today to talk about, who was it that said earlier in the week about, we were talking about the environment and the air that we breathe. How does one community, remember, said something, I forgot who it was now, that said, how do we have, how can we be partisan about our air that we breathe when the person right there is breathing the same air, but may be politically 180 degrees away from you, but we're breathing the same air. So we're drinking the same water. And kudos to the commissioner for reminding us of that. Henry, I was shocked at the percentages. 90% in America and 20% of the world. Fresh water is right here in our Great Lakes. See, y'all, the Midwest is the spot to be. Yeah, we're some bad mother swingers, as the phrase would go. That's why I push and talk so well about our great city of Chicago, our county commissioners, our county work, our state. Throughout the course of this week, we've had a lot of commentary about what the Dems aren't doing on a national level and who is not doing certain work and should be doing certain things versus not. The state of Illinois, again, someone helped me with it. Was the John Legend song was all of me. Okay, our imperfections here in the state of Illinois and the counties and the city itself are there. They're real, just like they are in the country. But one of the significant differences right now is our state leaders, but the progressive, liberal, democratic leaders have taken the batons and they're running with it. Starting with Governor Pritzker, certainly Lieutenant Governor Stratton, our Attorney General Kwame Raoul, our Comptroller Susana Mendoza, and so many others on the state level, our state representatives, our local officials, our mayor, imperfect, got work to do. We know that. But that's one of the things that I love about what Chicago, the counties, and the state are doing. We've taken the lead on things that matter to our state and to our region, but they matter to the country. And that's why we are leading, y'all. I don't care what any of the national media and national knuckleheads in politics want to say. Our state is leading right now. And by example, look at what our elected officials are doing. And when they don't get it right, I think they've been smart enough to step back and go, what can we do to fix that or make it better? And yeah, I'm here in Illinois and not in Pennsylvania, or I'm not in California, I'm not in, other blue states. But doggone it, we're getting a lot done. So I want to definitely give shout outs to our elected folks and to you guys for working hard to hold our feet collectively to the fire. I want to circle back to something that I said earlier, because this we can't talk about this, enough. Dems, please, please, please create some noise. Create the noise, make the noise, and the media, the other messengers, if you will follow. We have to create the noise. And from a congressional leader standpoint, Representative Jeffries, for those of you who might be in his district that are listening, call him and ask him, tell him if you want to, put together, utilize your lieutenant. So let's put this in some sort of military context. If he's the general of the Democratic members of the House of Representatives, then act like it and start to assemble and deploy your colonels and your majors and your captains and your lieutenants to do the work in the field, to get our other folks, maybe we could say our enlisted ranks of middle class, working class folks, reactivated. And how you do that is by looking at the team that you have and then organizing them in a way where they can go out and they can put that message to the community that needs to be reactivated. And if there's nothing more than, if it's as simple as doing what AOC and Bernie and Crockett are doing, then do that. But I'm telling you, an organized effort right now will make some noise. People will go, damn. The Democrats are sending out, 8, 10, 15 House members to, a state to hold a rally. Start doing it now, in other words. Don't wait till this coming November, a year out from the midterms. Don't wait. Start doing it now, because that's when you're going to get the energy, and that's where the galvanization is going to come from. I promise you that, Representative and Minority Leader Jeffries. I'm going to keep it in that space rather than tilting that over to Schumer, because there's more people, there's literally more people, and so you can get more done. But I promise you that if you were to take that effort on, it's not about, and I said this to my wife the other day, the Dems have got to stop fighting battles that they think they can only win. Fight the battle no matter what. If you don't win, the people will join you and say you fought. So by virtue of you fighting and taking a leadership role, we will win. Stop fighting the battles that you say, well, I know we can win over there. No, fight the ones that you don't think you can win and be surprised. That's what we need to see. Henry, my man, thanks for keeping us on the rails today and this week. And a shout out to my man Devin as well for helping me keep this thing on the rails. It's the end of the week. Take a deep breath, y'all, and make your life count. We'll see you next week.